Most brides worry about rain on their wedding day. I watched my parents walk into my reception wearing head-to-toe black, like they were burying me. 150 guests turned their heads. The whispering started before my mother even reached the microphone. She didn't wait for an invitation. She walked straight up to the stage, took the mic from our DJ's hand, and looked right at me. "We are mourning the daughter we lost." What she said next made my hands shake. But what my husband did after that, that's the part no one in that room will ever forget. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love knowing where you all are. I'm Wanda, I'm 29, and this is the story of how my own family tried to rob me at my wedding. Now let me take you back 18 months, to the day I wrote a check that changed everything. I grew up in Macon Hills, Tennessee, the kind of town where everyone knows your business before you do. Population 4,000, one traffic light, and a church parking lot that doubles as the town gossip exchange every Sunday morning. In the Mosley household, there were two daughters. Brielle was the sun. I was the background. My sister could walk into any room and every head would turn. Blonde hair, easy laugh, a voice that made strangers feel like old friends. Our parents, Janet and Bobby Mosley, built their entire social identity around her. Dance recitals, homecoming court, church talent shows. If Brielle breathed, they clapped. I was different, quiet, steady. I got straight A's, worked the register at the farm supply store from 16, cooked dinner when Mom was too busy driving Brielle to rehearsals. None of that made the refrigerator, and I mean that literally. Our fridge was covered in Brielle's photos. Competition ribbons, prom pictures, a magazine clipping from the local paper when she won Miss Macon Hills Teen. My stuff? One photo, bottom corner, half hidden behind the church calendar. I taped my honor roll certificate up there once, right at eye level. By morning it was gone. I found it folded in the junk drawer. I didn't say anything. That's the thing about growing up invisible. After a while, you stop expecting to be seen. Your sister has a gift for connecting with people, Wanda. You're more of a behind-the-scenes kind of girl. That's what my mother said at Christmas dinner. 12 relatives at the table. I was 17. Everyone nodded like she'd said something kind. I smiled, cleared the plates, and told myself it didn't matter. It mattered. Fast forward 11 years. I'm 27, living in a small apartment across town, working double shifts as a veterinary technician at the county animal clinic. I love animals. Animals don't play favorites. One Tuesday evening, my phone rang. Mom. Wanda, we need you to come home. It's urgent. The house was falling apart, roof leaking in 3 places, foundation cracked along the east wall. The plumbing, original pipes from 1979, had burst twice in 6 months. Dad's pension and Mom's part-time bookkeeping barely covered groceries. A full renovation was out of the question, unless someone stepped in. There was a family meeting. Mom sat at the head of the kitchen table, Dad beside her, hands folded. I sat across from them. Brielle wasn't there. She'd texted the group chat an hour before. Sorry, super busy. You guys figure it out. So I figured it out. $85,000. 10 years of double shifts, skipped vacations, and dollar store shampoo. I handed it over in a single cashier's check. New roof, new foundation work, new plumbing, fresh paint inside and out. I coordinated with the contractors myself, drove over every weekend to check progress, ate peanut butter sandwiches in my car between the clinic and the job site. When it was done, the house looked better than it had in 30 years. Mom hugged me on the front porch. Her eyes were wet. This house is yours, Wanda. When we're gone, it goes to you. You earned it. Dad nodded. You earned it, kiddo. No lawyer, no paperwork, no deed transfer, just a promise between blood. That was the most expensive handshake of my life. I just didn't know it yet. 3 months after the renovation wrapped, a section of soffit on the back porch came loose. The previous crew had cut corners. Mom called me panicking, and I called around for a contractor who could fix it fast. That's how I met Cole Reston. He showed up in a dented white pickup, work boots, and a flannel with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, hands like sandpaper. Spoke maybe 40 words in the first hour. But when he did talk, every word landed exactly where it was supposed to. He fixed the soffit in an afternoon. I brought him iced tea and we sat on the tailgate of his truck, not saying much, watching the sun drop behind the tree line. It was the most comfortable silence I'd ever shared with another person. We started dating 2 weeks later. The first time Cole came to dinner at my parents' house, I could feel the temperature shift the moment he walked in. Mom looked at his calloused hands, his faded jeans, the truck parked in the driveway. "So, what exactly do you do?" she asked, pronouncing do like it had 3 syllables. Cole didn't flinch. "General contracting, residential mostly." That was all she said. Dad stared at his plate. Brielle happened to be visiting that week. She was sweet to Cole's face, all smiles and, "Oh, how fun." But later that night, through the thin walls of my old bedroom, I heard her on the phone with Mom. "He seems fine, but is that really the best Wanda can do?" I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling. Cole was asleep in the guest room downstairs, and he had no idea that the people in this house had already decided he wasn't enough. Just like me. 6 months after the renovation, I stopped by the house on a Saturday to grab a box of old textbooks from my closet. My closet was empty, not just the textbooks, everything. My posters, my high school yearbooks, the quilt Grandma Davis made for my 12th birthday. All of it gone, shoved into a plastic bin in the garage. The room had been repainted. Lavender, Brielle's favorite color. New throw pillows on the bed, a vanity mirror I'd never seen. A diffuser puffing eucalyptus into air that used to smell like my old vanilla candle. "Mom, what happened to my room?" She didn't even look up from her crossword. "Brielle needs a space when she visits. You don't live here anymore, Wanda." Something cold settled in my chest. I pushed past it. "Mom, can we talk about the house? About what you and Dad promised?" Dad was in the kitchen doorway. He heard me. I know he did because his hand froze on his coffee mug. Mom set her pen down. "We'll figure it out when the time comes. Don't be pushy." "Pushy? I put 85,000 and we're grateful. But this is still our home. Don't make it awkward." Dad said nothing, just took his coffee and walked out to the porch. I drove home with the windows down, hoping the cold air would shake the feeling loose. It didn't. Cole was waiting at my apartment. He took one look at my face. "You okay?" "I don't know anymore." He didn't push. He just made me a grilled cheese and sat with me until I fell asleep on the couch. I should have listened to my gut that day, because the worst part hadn't even started. Cole proposed on a Sunday morning. No ring at first. Just him, standing in my tiny kitchen, holding 2 mugs of coffee and saying, "I want to build something with you. Not just houses." I said yes before he finished the sentence. I called Mom that afternoon. There was a pause on the line so long I checked if the call had dropped. "Already?" she said. Then, "Well, I suppose congratulations are in order." She didn't ask to see the ring. She didn't ask about the date. 1 week later, Brielle flew home, unannounced. She stayed 5 days, shopping trips with Mom, cooking with Dad, brunch at the cafe on Main Street. I saw the photos on Facebook. I wasn't invited, but the photos weren't the problem. My friend Darla, she works at the post office, knows everything that moves through Macon Hills, called me on a Wednesday night. "Hey, so, Brielle's been talking." "About what?" "About Cole. She told Patty Morrison and half the ladies at the salon that Cole pressured you into paying for the house, that he's got his eye on the property." I sat down on the edge of my bed. "That's not true." "I know, honey, but she said it like she was worried about you. Real convincing." I hung up and stared at the wall. My sister hadn't just insulted Cole behind closed doors anymore. She'd taken it public. In a town where a rumor at the salon hits every kitchen table by Sunday. And the worst part? She'd framed it as concern. "Between us, I think he's isolating her. She used to be so independent." That's what Darla said, Brielle told them, word for word, like she'd rehearsed it. 2 weeks later, Mom called. No small talk. No, "How are you?" Just a voice I barely recognized. Cold, clipped, certain. "Your father and I have been thinking, maybe the house should go to Brielle. She's struggling, Wanda. You have Cole." I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles went white. Mom, I put $85,000 into that house. That was a gift to your family. Don't throw it in our faces. A gift. 10 years of my life. Repackaged as a gift so they could hand the result to someone who texted you guys figure it out while I signed the check. I tried one more time. You and Dad promised. Promises change. Circumstances change. Brielle needs stability right now, and frankly, with Cole in the picture, I'm not sure your priorities are where they should be. There it was. Not just the house, not just the money. She was using Brielle's lies about Cole as justification. That night, Dad called. Separate phone. His voice was quiet, tired. Just let it go, kiddo. Your mom's mind is made up. And yours? A long pause. I don't want to lose anybody. You already are, Dad. He hung up first. I sat in the dark doing the math. $85,000. No documentation, no contract, no witnesses beyond a kitchen table promise. If I stayed silent, I would lose every cent. Brielle would sell that house the minute the deed was in her name, and my parents would never admit they'd been wrong. But if I fought back, I'd lose them entirely. I chose silence, not because I was afraid, because I didn't yet know how far they were willing to go. Cole found me at the kitchen table at midnight, staring at a bank statement on my laptop screen. The $85,000 transfer, highlighted in yellow, dated 22 months ago. He pulled up a chair. Didn't say anything at first, just looked at the screen, then at me. Tell me everything. So I did. Mom's call, Dad's resignation, Brielle's rumor campaign, the room painted lavender, all of it. Cole listened without interrupting. When I finished, his jaw was tight but his voice was steady. Do you have the receipts from the renovation, the bank transfers? I nodded. Every email, every invoice, the bank statements right here. What about the contractor? Would he remember? Greg Holloway. He'd remember. I called him every week for 4 months. Cole leaned back. He folded his arms, and I could see him thinking, not reacting, not fuming, just calculating, like he was reading blueprints for a building that hadn't been built yet. Good. Keep all of that. Screenshots. Save them somewhere safe, not just your email. And Wanda? Don't confront them. Not yet. What are you thinking? He looked at me, not angry, not pitying, just certain. I'm not going to let them take what's yours, but we do this smart. He squeezed my hand once, then stood up, rinsed his mug, and went to bed like it was any other Tuesday. But it wasn't any other Tuesday. Because starting that night, I noticed something. Cole began spending an extra hour on his laptop every evening after dinner. He didn't explain. I didn't ask. I trusted him. And that turned out to be the best decision I ever made. We set the wedding for June 14th. Small budget, no help from my parents. Cole and I would pay for everything ourselves. A barn venue outside town, a local caterer, wildflowers from the farmer's market. Nothing fancy. Just ours. Mom made her position clear early. I'm not paying for a wedding to a man I don't approve of. We didn't ask you to, I said. She hung up. I expected the cold shoulder. What I didn't expect was what showed up on Facebook the following Saturday. A photo. Mom and Brielle, side by side, at a bridal boutique in Nashville. Brielle holding a white gown against her body. Mom beaming. Caption. Mother-daughter day. Brielle wasn't engaged. She didn't even have a boyfriend. Not one Mom knew about anyway. My phone buzzed. Kenna, are you seeing this? I stared at the photo. 47 likes. Comments. So gorgeous. And can't wait for the big day, and lucky mama. Not one person asked whose wedding they were shopping for. Because in the Mosley family, there was only one daughter worth celebrating. I didn't comment. I didn't react. I locked my phone, set it face down on the counter, and went back to addressing our wedding invitations by hand. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed replaying that photo, my mother's smile, the way she had her arm around Brielle like she was the bride, like I didn't exist. Cole rolled over. You're thinking too loud. Sorry. Don't be sorry. Just remember, people who need an audience to feel powerful always need a bigger one next time. I didn't fully understand what he meant. Not until the wedding. 3 weeks before the wedding, I drove to my parents' house to grab the last of my things from the garage. An old lamp, some winter clothes, a box of Christmas ornaments Grandma Davis left me. Brielle's car was in the driveway. I almost turned around. But my stuff was my stuff, and I was done rearranging my life around her schedule. The garage side door was unlocked. I stepped in, found my box, and started loading it into my trunk. That's when I heard her voice. Drifting through the open window above the garage, clear as a bell, Brielle was on FaceTime upstairs, laughing. Once I get that house, I'm listing it. Travis and I checked the comps. Easy 450. I froze, my hand on the box, my heart in my throat. A man's voice, tinny through the speaker. Your parents still don't know about me? Not yet. I'll introduce you after the house thing is done. One bomb at a time, babe. He laughed. She laughed louder. Then she said it. The sentence that rearranged every memory I had of the last 2 years. I told them Cole was only with Wanda for the property. They ate it up. Honestly, it was too easy. A pause. Then, Wanda's an idiot for pouring 85 grand into a house she'll never own. I stood there in that garage, my hands shaking, a box of Grandma's ornaments rattling against my chest. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. Every instinct told me to storm upstairs, to scream, to confront her with her own words still echoing off the walls. I didn't. I set the box down, walked to my car, and drove home in silence. That was the smartest thing I've ever done. I made it to the kitchen table before I broke. Not a big cry, just tears running quiet down my face while I sat there gripping the edge of the table like it might float away. Cole came in from the yard. He saw me and set down his water bottle without a word, pulled a chair beside me, waited. I heard her, Cole, Brielle, on the phone. I told him what she said. Every word. The listing price, the boyfriend, the lie about him. When I got to the part where she called me an idiot, my voice cracked. Not from the insult, but from the realization that my parents had rewritten their opinion of the man I loved based on a story my sister invented over FaceTime with a boyfriend they didn't even know existed. Cole didn't slam the table, didn't raise his voice. He sat very still and asked one question. Did you record it? I shook my head. Next time, keep your phone on record, just in case. He was quiet for a moment. Then, they're planning something for the wedding. I can feel it. Let me handle the slideshow setup. I blinked. The slideshow? I told the DJ I'd put together a photo reel for the reception. Let me manage that. It seemed like a small thing. A husband wanting to handle the wedding slideshow. But the way he said it, calm, deliberate, like a man measuring twice before he cuts, told me it wasn't small at all. If they want to make a scene, we'll let them. And then we'll make sure everyone sees the truth. I didn't ask him to explain. Cole wasn't a man who made promises he couldn't keep. Whatever he was building, I'd see it when it was done. Okay, I need to pause here for a second. Looking back, I know some of you might be thinking, why didn't you just cut them off right then? And honestly, I asked myself that too. But when it's your parents, the people who fed you, drove you to school, sat beside your bed when you had the flu, walking away isn't as simple as it sounds from the outside. So let me ask you, if you heard your sibling say those exact words about you, calling you an idiot, planning to sell your investment out from under you, what would your next move be? Tell me in the comments. Now, back to what happened next, because it got worse. Cole didn't talk about what he was doing. He just did it. Over the next 2 weeks, I'd catch glimpses. His laptop open on the kitchen counter at 6 in the morning. A manila folder on his desk that wasn't there before. A phone call taken outside on the porch, voice too low for me to hear. One night, I came out of the shower and found him at the table with printed bank statements, mine, spread out in neat rows, highlighted, annotated. Those are my transfers to Greg Holloway, I said. Every one of them. 8 payments over 4 months, totaling $85,247. He didn't look up. I also pulled the email chain between you and Greg, every invoice, every work order. Cole, what are you? I talked to a real estate attorney today. Name's Mitchell Farrow, out of Cookville. I sat down. A lawyer? Just a conversation. He said if you contributed a significant amount to the property, documented, traceable, and they try to deny you any interest, You have a strong case. Unjust enrichment. Tennessee recognizes it. He said it the way he'd say, the roof needs flashing. Factual, no drama. I'm not trying to take their house, Cole. I know, neither am I. He looked at me then. But if they try to take what's yours on our wedding day, I want the truth ready. He held up a USB drive. Small, black, ordinary. Slideshow backup, he said, and he slipped it into his shirt pocket. I watched him organize the papers back into the folder, finish his coffee, and rinse the mug, like it was any other evening. I didn't know what was on that USB. Not yet. I wouldn't know until the night of the wedding. 2 weeks before the wedding. I drove over to my parents' house to return a baking dish Mom had left at our place months ago. A quick drop-off. 5 minutes, tops. I didn't call ahead. Maybe I should have. The front door was unlocked. I walked through the foyer, dish in hand, and turned the corner into the kitchen. All 3 of them were at the table. Mom, Dad, and Brielle. Papers spread across the surface. A pen between Mom's fingers. Dad's reading glasses low on his nose. The moment I appeared, the conversation stopped. Not a pause, a full stop, like someone had hit mute on a television. Brielle's hand moved fast. She flipped a page face down. Mom's eyes darted to the paper, then back to me. Wanda, we didn't hear you come in. I was returning your dish. I held it up. Oh, thank you. Mom's smile was tight, practiced. I set the dish on the counter. My eyes swept the table. I couldn't help it. Most of the papers were covered, but one corner of the page Brielle had flipped was still visible. I saw 4 letters printed in bold. Quit. The beginning of a word. I didn't need to see the rest. Just going over some boring bills, Mom said. She was already gathering the pages into a stack. Of course, I smiled. I'll get out of your hair. I walked out slowly. I didn't run. I didn't accuse. In the car, I pulled out my phone and typed 2 words into the search bar. Quitclaim deed. A legal document that transfers property interest from one person to another. No sale required, no warranty, just a signature. They weren't just talking about taking the house anymore. They were drawing up the paperwork. 1 week before the wedding. A Tuesday afternoon. I was home, folding laundry, when the doorbell rang. Brielle, standing on my porch in a linen sundress, hair curled, smile wide, like she was dropping off a casserole. Hey sis, got a minute? She walked in before I answered, sat at the kitchen table, pulled a single sheet of paper from her bag, and slid it across the surface. The header read, Acknowledgement of Gift. I picked it up. The language was simple. 1 paragraph. It stated that I, Wanda Mosley, acknowledge that my financial contribution of $85,000 toward the renovation of the Mosley family home was a voluntary gift, made without conditions, expectations, or claims to ownership. A signature line at the bottom, my name printed underneath. It's just a formality, Brielle said. She tilted her head, eyes soft. Mom wants peace of mind before the wedding. You know how she worries. I read it again, every word. Then I folded it, set it on the table, and looked at my sister. I'm not signing this, Brielle. The softness in her face flickered, just for a half second, a flash of something cold behind the smile. Then the mask came back. Fine, we'll talk about it later. She stood, grabbed her bag, and walked to the door. See you at the wedding. She left the paper on the table. Whether she forgot or left it on purpose, I'll never know. But I know this. Cole came home 20 minutes later, saw the document, and photographed every inch of it, front and back. Then he slid it into the manila folder without a word. I didn't spend 10 years saving to sign it away in 10 seconds. That's what I told my empty kitchen after she left. June 14th. My wedding day. Kenna laced the back of my dress in the bridal suite. A converted tack room with a full-length mirror propped against a barn beam. Simple white dress, no train. Red lipstick, my grandmother's pearl earrings that I'd kept in a velvet pouch since I was 19. You look incredible, Kenna said. I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's normal, also incredible. The venue was a restored barn 20 minutes outside Macon Hills. String lights draped from the rafters, long wooden farm tables, mason jars stuffed with wildflowers Cole had picked that morning. 150 guests. My co-workers from the animal clinic, Cole's crew from the contracting business, neighbors, old friends, a few of Cole's cousins from Knoxville. The ceremony was outdoors, under an oak tree. When I came around the corner and saw Cole standing at the altar in a charcoal gray suit, his eyes turned red before I even reached him. He blinked hard, bit his lip, took my hands like he was holding something he'd been waiting for his whole life. Then Kenna touched my arm. Wanda. Her voice was strange, tight. You need to see this. I turned. Through the side window of the barn I could see the parking lot. A silver sedan had just pulled in. The door opened. Mom stepped out, head to toe in black. A long black dress, black cardigan, black shoes, funeral clothes. Behind her, Dad. Black suit, black tie, black expression, and behind him, Brielle. Also black. A fitted black dress and heels, sunglasses pushed up on her head. 3 people dressed for a burial, walking toward my wedding. Say the word, and I will lock that door, Kenna whispered. I didn't say the word. I wish I had. I didn't lock the door. I didn't cancel the ceremony. I did what I'd been doing my entire life in the Mosley family. I carried on. The 3 of them took seats in the front row. Black against a sea of pastels and summer florals. 150 people noticed. Nobody said a word. A woman on Cole's side, his Aunt Margine, leaned over to her husband and whispered something behind her program. I could read her lips from the altar. Is someone dead? The officiant kept going. I kept standing. My hands were in Cole's, and his thumbs pressed into my palms every time I started to tremble. During the vows, Cole went off script. Just one line. I will always protect what's ours. Not yours. Not mine. Ours. He held my eyes when he said it, but I saw Mom shift in her seat. Brielle crossed her arms. Dad stared at his shoes. We kissed. The crowd erupted. Cheers, whistles, Kenna ugly crying into a handkerchief. Everyone was on their feet. Everyone except 3 people in the front row. Mom sat rigid, hands clasped in her lap, black dress stark against the white folding chair. Brielle sat beside her with a small smile. Not a happy smile, the kind of smile you wear when you know something no one else does. Dad just looked tired, like a man who'd been told where to sit and what to wear and had stopped asking why a long time ago. I told myself it was fine. They'd made their statement. Black clothes, front row, stone faces. Fine, let them mourn. I was alive and married and standing in the sunlight, and I refused to let them pull me into the dark. But they weren't done. The reception started beautifully. String lights glowing. First dance. Cole spun me slow under a canopy of Edison bulbs while our guests clinked glasses and the caterers set out plates. Then the DJ tapped the microphone. We'd love to open the floor for toasts. He didn't finish. My mother was already moving. She crossed the dance floor in 4 strides, took the microphone from the DJ's hand, not a grab, but firm enough that he let go out of sheer surprise, and turned to face the room. 150 people went silent. I want everyone here to know we are in mourning tonight. A murmur rippled through the tables. We are losing our daughter to a man who married her for our family home. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it had been filled with concrete. She wasn't done. Wanda, if you have any love left for this family, you will sign a document right now releasing any claim to our house. Your sister needs that home, not some outsider. She pointed at Cole, at my husband, at the man who'd just promised me forever under an oak tree 30 minutes ago. Bobby stood up beside her. He didn't speak. He just stood, a silent wall of endorsement. And then Brielle rose from her chair. She reached into her bag and pulled out a document, the same one she'd brought to my apartment, the acknowledgement of gift. She held it up, visible to the entire room, and walked toward me. She set the paper on the table in front of me, placed a pen on top, and she smiled. Not a nervous smile, not an embarrassed smile, the smile of someone who had already won. Silence. Not the comfortable kind, the kind that presses against your eardrums and makes the room feel like it's shrinking. 150 pairs of eyes locked onto me. The bride in white, sitting at her own reception table, a pen and a legal document placed in front of her like a verdict. Brielle leaned down, close enough that I could smell her perfume. Just sign it. It was never yours anyway. I looked at the paper, then at the pen, then at my sister's face. Calm, certain, already rehearsing her victory speech. Then I looked at my parents, Mom clutching the microphone like a gavel, Dad standing beside her with empty eyes. Two people I had fed, cleaned for, poured every dollar I'd ever saved into, and they couldn't even look at me without resentment. My hands were flat on the table. I didn't pick up the pen. I didn't cry. Kenna was on her feet. I could see her from the corner of my eye, jaw tight, fists clenched, ready to charge. She was about to say something she'd regret on my behalf, and I loved her for it. But then a hand landed gently on Kenna's shoulder. Cole. He stood up from beside me, slow, deliberate. He buttoned his suit jacket, one button, the way he always does, and gave me a look. Steady eyes, a small nod, the kind that said, I got this. Then he walked away from the table, past the dance floor, past the bar, toward the DJ booth, where his laptop sat connected to the projector screen. He picked up the remote. 150 people watched my husband point a small black remote at a glowing white screen. Nobody, not even I, knew what was about to appear. All right, I have to be honest with you for a second. This is the part of the story I've replayed in my head 1,000 times. When Brielle put that pen in front of me, I almost picked it up. Not because she was right, but because part of me just wanted the humiliation to stop. 150 people watching the worst moment of your life. That weight is something I can't fully describe. So tell me, if you were sitting in that chair, in your wedding dress, with every person you know staring at you, would you have signed, or would you have waited? Drop your answer in the comments. What comes next is the reason I'm glad I didn't touch that pen. Cole didn't rush. He set the remote on the DJ table, leaned toward the laptop, and clicked twice. The projector screen, which had been cycling through wedding photos all evening, went dark for 1 second. Then it lit up again. The first image wasn't a photo of us. It was a bank statement. My bank statement. A highlighted wire transfer of $85,000, dated 22 months prior, routed directly to Holloway Construction, LLC. The memo line read, Mosley Family Home, full renovation. The murmuring started immediately. Heads turned, phones came up. Cole didn't speak. He just pressed the remote. Next slide. A printed email chain between me and Greg Holloway. 4 months of invoices, material lists, progress photos. The final line, total project cost, $85,247. Paid in full by Wanda Mosley. I watched my mother's hand slowly lower the microphone. Brielle's smile dimmed like a bulb on a dying circuit. Cole pressed again. Before and after photos of the house, side by side. The crumbling porch next to the rebuilt porch, the cracked foundation next to the sealed foundation, the rusted pipes next to gleaming copper, each set labeled, funded by Wanda Mosley. The room wasn't whispering anymore. People were leaning forward, reading every word on that screen like it was a courtroom exhibit. Aunt Margene, Cole's aunt, put her hand over her mouth. But Cole wasn't done, and the money wasn't the part that made them run. He looked at me across the room. One more nod, then he pressed the remote again, and the screen changed to something I had never seen before. Text messages, screenshots, blown up to 6 feet wide. My heart stopped. The first screenshot filled the screen, an iMessage conversation. Contact name at the top, Travis Keene. Brielle's outgoing messages in blue. 150 people read it at the same time. Brielle. Mom and Dad are so gullible, LOL. I told them Cole is only with Wanda for the house. They bought it immediately. The sound that moved through the room wasn't a gasp. It was lower. A collective exhale, like the air had been punched out of every chest at once. Cole pressed the remote. Brielle. Once I get that house, I'm listing it. Travis and I checked. Easy $450,000. Chairs creaked. Someone at the back table stood up for a better look. Another click. Brielle. Wanda's an idiot for paying $85,000 into a house she'll never own. Dead silence. Then a woman at table 9, I think it was Paula from the clinic, said, "Oh my God," loud enough for the whole barn to hear. Cole pressed one final time. The last slide. A photograph of the acknowledgement of gift document. The one Brielle had brought to my apartment. The one she'd just placed in front of me, minutes ago, with a pen and a smile. The text was clear enough for every guest to read. It asked me to declare my $85,000 a voluntary gift with no claim to ownership. Cole turned away from the screen and looked at my family. His voice was calm, not loud, not angry, just clear. That's who told you your daughter's fiancé was a gold digger, your other daughter. Mom turned to Brielle. Brielle opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The pen was still on the table in front of me. I hadn't touched it. The room cracked open. Aunt Marjean's voice carried from table 4. Lord have mercy. Then the noise came. Not shouting, just the low roar of 150 people processing the same betrayal at the same time. Whispers became sentences. Sentences became open conversation. Heads shook, eyes widened, phones lit up under tables. Brielle moved first. She snatched her bag from the chair, clutched it to her chest like a shield, and turned for the exit. Her heels cracked against the barn floor, fast, uneven, almost tripping on the threshold. Mom stood frozen at the microphone. The mic hung at her side, still on, picking up her breathing, quick and shallow, broadcast to every speaker in the room. Bobby, she said, voice shaking. Bobby, say something. Dad didn't say something. He shook his head once. Slowly. Then he took Mom's elbow. Not gently, not roughly, just mechanically, and steered her toward the door. We need to go. Now. Mom's heels clicked across the wooden floor. The microphone dropped from her hand and hit the stage with a dull thud that echoed through the speakers. She didn't pick it up. The barn door opened. June night air rushed in. 3 black silhouettes disappeared into the parking lot. An engine started. Headlights swept across the windows. Then they were gone. The silence lasted maybe 4 seconds. Then Cole walked back to our table, sat down beside me, and took my hand under the tablecloth. He turned toward the room. Same calm voice. Sorry about the delay, folks. The bar's still open. The laugh started at table 6 and spread like a wave. Then the applause. Then Kenna, sobbing into her champagne, raising her glass. I didn't cry. Not because I was strong. Because I was finally free. We danced until midnight. The caterers ran out of pulled pork. Kenna gave a toast that made every woman in the room cry, including herself, twice. 2 of Cole's cousins started a line dance that lasted 6 songs. Nobody mentioned my parents for the rest of the night. Not out loud, anyway. The next morning, Cole and I sat across from Mitchell Farrow in his office in Cookville. Wood-paneled walls, a ceiling fan clicking overhead, and a man who looked like he'd been practicing law since before I was born. He reviewed everything. Bank statements, email chains, contractor invoices, the before and after photos, the screenshot of the acknowledgement of gift document. This is clean, he said, tapping the folder. Traceable funds, documented improvements, no reimbursement. Tennessee courts recognize unjust enrichment claims. You've got a strong case. I don't want the house, I said. Farrow looked at me over his glasses. What do you want? My $85,000 back. That's it. He nodded. Drew up the civil claim that afternoon. Unjust enrichment. Recovery of funds contributed to a property under an unfulfilled promise. He attached every receipt, every transfer record, every photograph. The notice was sent to Janet and Robert Mosley by certified mail 3 days later. Included was a note from Farrow. Please be advised that the submitted acknowledgement of gift document, which your family attempted to have Miss Mosley sign, demonstrates awareness that the contribution was not, in fact, a gift. I didn't want their house. I didn't want revenge. I wanted exactly what I'd put in, not $1 more, not $1 less. I didn't want their house, I told Cole on the drive home. I wanted my money and my dignity, both. He reached across the console and held my hand. You've got both. 8 days after the wedding, my phone rang. Mom. I almost didn't answer, but something, maybe habit, maybe that stubborn thread of hope that never fully dies, made me pick up. Her voice was different, smaller. The command was gone. What replaced it wasn't warmth. It was disorientation. Like someone who'd walked into a room and forgotten why. Wanda? We need to talk about this lawyer letter. There's nothing to talk about, Mom. My attorney will handle it from here. You hired a lawyer? Against your own parents? You wore funeral clothes to my wedding, Mom. Silence. Then the pivot. The one I'd been expecting. You're tearing this family apart. Is this what Cole told you to do? Is this his idea? Same playbook, different day. I didn't wear black to your wedding, Mom. I heard her breath catch. For once, she didn't have a response. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up, set the phone face down, poured myself a glass of water, and stood at the kitchen window watching Cole mow the yard next door for our elderly neighbor. Even when everything was on fire, that man mowed lawns. 2 days later, a text from Dad. Just 5 words. I should have spoken up. Then, I'm sorry. I read it 3 times. I sat with it for a long time, turning those words over in my hands like something fragile. I thought about responding. I typed out 4 different replies and deleted every one. I wasn't ready, not yet. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip, it's a road you walk, and I hadn't decided yet whether I wanted to start walking. But I didn't delete his message. That was something. In a town like Macon Hills, you don't need the internet for news to go viral. You just need one church potluck. Within a week, everyone knew. The veterinary clinic receptionist. The guy at the hardware store. The teller at First Tennessee Credit Union. They'd either been at the wedding themselves or heard it from someone who was. Brielle worked at Pennington Realty, a small brokerage on Main Street run by a woman named Gail Pennington. Gail had been at the wedding, table 7. She'd watched the whole thing unfold with a glass of Merlot in one hand and her jaw on the floor. Monday morning, Gail called Brielle into her office and closed the door. I saw those texts, Brielle. Every person at that wedding saw them. Gail, I can explain. I sell houses based on trust. I can't have someone with that kind of judgment representing my listings. Brielle was let go that afternoon. Then came Travis, the secret boyfriend, the man who was supposed to split the $450,000 payday. He vanished. Blocked her on every platform. Phone, Instagram, Facebook, all of it. She called. No answer. She texted. Blue bubbles with no reply. That's the thing about people who are only there for the upside. When the upside disappears, so do they. A few days later, Kenna forwarded me a screenshot. Brielle had posted an old photo of the two of us, from a family barbecue years ago, with the caption, "Sisters forever, so grateful for family." She's doing damage control, Kenna said. I stared at the photo. 2 girls in the sun, arms around each other. I barely recognized either of them. I didn't respond. I didn't repost. I didn't comment. Some things don't need a response. They need a boundary. 6 weeks after the wedding, Mitchell Farrow called. They've agreed to settle. I pulled over to the side of the road to take the call. I was on my way home from the clinic, still in scrubs, dog hair on my sleeve. What are the terms? Full repayment, $85,000 over 36 months, equal installments, and you'll have a lien on the property until the balance is paid. Standard protection. The house? Stays in their name. This was never about ownership, and the agreement reflects that. I leaned my head back against the seat, closed my eyes. $85,000. Coming back. Not because I'd screamed or threatened or posted a single word on social media, because I had receipts, because Cole had organized them, because Mitchell Farrow had turned a kitchen table betrayal into a clean legal document. Do I need to see them? No. Everything's handled through my office. They sign there, you sign here. No face-to-face required. Good. I signed the agreement the following Tuesday. A quiet room, a steady pen, my name on a line that actually meant something this time. Cole was in the waiting room reading a Field and Stream magazine. When I came out, he looked up. Done? Done. He stood, tossed the magazine on the chair, and held the door open for me. We drove home with the windows down and the radio playing something neither of us really listened to. It was enough to just sit in the quiet of a finished thing. I didn't need their house. I needed them to acknowledge what I gave. And now, in black and white, On paper with a legal seal. They had. That was worth more than any property deed. Mom stopped going to church for 2 months. In Macon Hills, that's the equivalent of a public resignation. Sunday mornings at First Baptist weren't just about worship. They were the social scoreboard, and Janet Mosley had held a front-row seat for 25 years. Head of the welcome committee, first to arrive, last to leave. The woman who organized every potluck, every bake sale, every holiday pageant. After the wedding, she disappeared. The front pew sat empty. When she finally came back in August, she slipped in through the side entrance and sat in the third-to-last row. Alone. Nobody confronted her. This was Tennessee. People didn't make scenes, they just adjusted. Conversations got shorter, invitations stopped coming. The casserole train that used to arrive whenever someone was sick skipped the Mosley porch. Dad handled it differently. He started spending more time in the garden, alone, up early, out until dark, hands in the dirt like he was trying to grow something he couldn't name. He called me every 2 weeks, short calls, never more than 5 minutes. How's the clinic? Busy. Good busy. Cole doing okay? He's great, Dad. Good. That's good. Awkward, stilted, but consistent. Every other Sunday. Like clockwork. Brielle moved to Nashville at the end of July, packed up in a weekend and left without a goodbye dinner. She didn't call Mom, she didn't call Dad, she didn't call me. When there was nothing left to take, Brielle left. I think that was the part that broke my mother more than anything. Not the wedding, not the lawyer letter, not the town's quiet judgment. It was realizing that the daughter she'd chosen, the golden child she'd built her world around, had never planned to stay. She was only ever there for the house. Cole found the house in September, a 2-bedroom fixer-upper on Ridgeline Road, just past the county line. Overgrown yard, peeling siding, a kitchen that hadn't been updated since the 80s. The asking price was low enough to make a real estate agent wince. It's got good bones, Cole said, standing in the driveway with his hands on his hips, squinting at the roofline like he was already drawing plans in his head. It's got a raccoon in the attic. I'll negotiate with the raccoon. We bought it. Cash from the first few settlement payments, plus what we'd been saving. Our names on the deed, both of them, in ink. Cole did the renovation himself. Evenings and weekends, 1 room at a time. New floors, new countertops. Repaired the porch. I planted a vegetable garden along the south fence. Tomatoes, peppers, herbs. Something alive and growing that was purely ours. Kenna came over most Saturdays. She'd bring wine and gossip and sit on the porch while Cole cut trim in the garage and I planted basil. It was simple, ordinary, perfect. In October, a birthday card arrived in the mailbox. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Dad's. I opened it at the kitchen table. A drugstore card with a cartoon cake on the front. Inside, in careful ballpoint. Happy birthday, kiddo. Proud of you. No signature from Mom, just Dad. I held it for a long time. Then I walked to the refrigerator, our refrigerator, in our house, and I stuck it right in the center, eye level. No church calendar blocking it. No stack of someone else's photos crowding it out. For the first time in 29 years, my name was the first thing I saw on a refrigerator. I don't hate my parents. I know that might surprise some of you after everything I just told you. But hate takes energy I'd rather spend on something that grows. What I do hate is the version of myself who sat at that kitchen table at 27 and handed over a cashier's check without asking for a single piece of paper in return. The girl who thought love and trust were the same thing. They're not. Love is a feeling. Trust is a contract. And every contract needs terms. My mother exploited a promise she never intended to keep. My sister invented a lie so convincing it turned my parents against the best man I've ever known. And my father, the man who taught me to ride a bike and bait a hook, stood there in a black suit and said nothing. But here's what I've learned, and I'm sharing it because I wish someone had said it to me 10 years ago. Loving someone doesn't mean handing them a blank check, literally or emotionally. There are still nights when I lie awake and see it. Mom at the microphone, Brielle's smile, the pen on the table, 150 faces watching me at the lowest moment of my life. Those images don't go away. I don't think they're supposed to. They're not wounds anymore. They're the scar tissue that reminds me where my limit is. But every morning I walk through my own front door, a door I helped pay for, attached to a house with my name on the deed, and I remember that I chose myself. I chose the man who stood up when everyone else sat down, and I do it again, every single time. Thanksgiving, 6 months after the wedding, Cole and I hosted. Our house, our kitchen, our table. A second-hand oak table he'd refinished with 3 coats of polyurethane and sanded until it was smooth enough to write on. Kenna came. A few friends from the clinic. 2 of Cole's cousins from Knoxville. A 7-pound turkey, cornbread dressing, and a sweet potato casserole that Cole made from his grandmother's recipe, which he will take to his grave before he shares. We'd just sat down when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. Then I saw the name. Dad. I stepped into the hallway. "Hey, kiddo." "Hey, Dad." A pause. The kind that lasts long enough to hear someone swallow. "Your mom isn't ready yet, but Can I come by? Just for an hour?" I looked through the doorway at Cole. He must have read my face because he raised his eyebrows. A question. I held up the phone and mouthed Dad. Cole nodded once. "Bring pie, Bobby," Cole called, loud enough for the phone to pick it up. Dad arrived 40 minutes later with a store-bought pecan pie and shoes that were too clean for a man who spent every morning in the garden. He stood on the porch like he wasn't sure he had the right house. He ate turkey. He complimented the dressing. He asked Cole about the porch railing and listened, actually listened, to the answer. Before he left, he hugged me, both arms, tight. The kind of hug that says everything a man like Bobby Mosley doesn't know how to put into words. I didn't say I forgive you. Not yet. That word is too big to rush. But I opened the door. And for now, that's enough. If you're watching this and you're in a family where your love is measured by how much you're willing to give up, I want you to know something. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to love someone and still say no. You're allowed to care about your parents and still protect yourself. You're allowed to walk away from a table where you're only welcome when you're serving. Setting a boundary isn't betrayal. It isn't selfishness. It isn't being ungrateful. You know what is? Sitting in silence while the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones doing the damage. That's the real betrayal. And it's the one you're committing against yourself. My mother hasn't called me since that day in the lawyer's office. Maybe she will. Maybe she won't. That's her road to walk, and I can't carry her down it. My father calls every other Sunday, 5 minutes, awkward, consistent. He's trying. I see it. My sister is somewhere in Nashville. I don't know what she's doing. I don't check. The thread between us was cut cleanly, and I've stopped looking for the other end. Cole taught me something that I carry everywhere now. He said it the night before the wedding, while we were packing the car with table centerpieces and a cooler full of sweet tea. You don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to stand still and let the truth do the talking. I'm Wanda. I'm 29, and this is my house. Nobody else's name on it. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors. You just get to choose who walks through. And for the first time in my life, I'm the one holding the key. That's my story. If it reminded you of something you've been through, or something you're still going through right now, please leave a comment. I read every single one, and I promise you, you're not alone in this. If you know someone who needs to hear this today, share it with them. Sometimes one story is all it takes to make someone realize they're allowed to stand up. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I've linked another story in the description that I think you'll really want to hear. It's about a woman whose family tried to erase her from a will. She didn't let them. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one. Great, another burden, my mother said, at a cookout with 35 guests. The afternoon I told my family I was pregnant. My father didn't even look up from his plate. He just nodded and added, "We wish you were never born, and now there'll be 2 of you." 35 people heard it. Aunts, uncles, cousins, the neighbor who brings pie every 4th of July. Nobody said a word. I smiled. I stood up, and I walked to the cooler to get a glass of water like nothing happened. Because what I had set in motion that morning, before I ever drove to their house, was about to dismantle every lie they'd built with my money, my savings, and my silence. They just didn't know it yet. But before I tell you what happened at that cookout, I need to take you back 3 years, to the day my father lost his job and I made the worst financial decision of my life. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop your location and what time it is where you are right now. I love seeing where you all are tuning in from. I'm Morgan. I'm 29. I'm a nurse practitioner at a small county clinic in Ohio. And this is how I stopped being my family's invisible ATM. Now let me take you back to 3 years ago, the week my father came home from the factory for the last time. The plant on Route 9 shut down on a Tuesday. My father, Earl Calloway, walked through the front door at 2 in the afternoon carrying a cardboard box with a coffee mug and a framed safety certificate. 58 years old, 31 years on the floor, no degree, no severance worth mentioning. My mother called me that night. Not my sister Vivian, me. Morgan, your father won't file for unemployment. He says it's humiliating. The electric bill is past due and the water's next. I sat at the kitchen table with my husband Ryan. He'd just come off a 12-hour shift pulling wire at a new subdivision. His hands were still dusty. We can help, Ryan said, but set a number and a timeline. So I did. $800 a month, 1 year. That was the agreement. In my head, at least, because nobody wrote anything down. I called my mother back. Ryan and I can send $800 a month until Dad finds something. My father got on the line. His voice was low and tight, the way it gets when pride is doing the talking. Don't tell anyone. I don't want the family knowing I'm taking money from my daughter. I promised. That was my first mistake. Because a month later, I was on the phone with my Aunt Ruth, my mother's older sister. And she mentioned how relieved she was that Dad's disability settlement had come through. That the family could breathe again. Disability settlement. My father never filed for disability. He never filed for anything. I sat with the phone pressed to my ear and said nothing. $800 a month was supposed to last 1 year. 3 years later, I was still sending it. I set the number. I forgot the timeline. The favoritism wasn't new. It was just the wallpaper of my childhood. So constant, I stopped noticing it. When Vivian graduated college, my parents threw a party. Streamers on the mailbox. A sheet cake from the bakery downtown that said Our Star. 40 people in the backyard. When I finished nursing school 2 years later, top of my cohort, pinning ceremony and everything, my parents forgot. They were 3 towns over helping Vivian look at apartments. My mother texted me that night. Sorry, honey, Vivian needed us today. We'll celebrate soon. We never did. Then came the weddings. Vivian married Derek Holt. He managed the biggest auto dealership in the county. My father shook Derek's hand at the rehearsal dinner and said, loud enough for the whole table, finally, a man in this family who knows how to make real money. I married Ryan Grant 8 months later. Small ceremony. My parents came. At the reception, my father met Ryan for the first time and called him Wire Boy. Not to his face. To my Uncle Frank. But Ryan heard. Ryan didn't say a word. He just squeezed my hand under the table and kept eating. That's who Ryan is. He doesn't fight with words. He builds things. He fixes things. He shows up. But from that night forward, every family dinner, every holiday, every phone call, it was always Vivian. Vivian's promotion. Vivian's new car. Derek's dealership numbers. And Morgan? Morgan's fine. Morgan's busy. Morgan doesn't need anything. Except I was the one wiring $800 on the first of every month so the lights stayed on. Then my father asked me for something bigger, and I said yes, because that's what I did back then. I said yes. It started with the car. My father's truck died 6 months after the plant closed. He needed wheels to get to job interviews, or so he said. He went to the credit union, but his credit was wrecked. Morgan, I just need a cosigner. I'll make every payment. Ryan looked at me across the kitchen. He didn't say no, but his jaw tightened the way it does when he's holding something back. I signed anyway. That was chain number 2 around my neck. If my father missed a payment, my credit score would tank. And Ryan and I were saving to buy a house before starting a family. Then came the church roof. Our church on Elm Street had a leak that ran all winter. My mother sat at Sunday dinner, dabbing her eyes. The pastor says they need $5,000 or the whole sanctuary ceiling comes down. Nobody stepped up. It breaks my heart. I transferred $5,000 to the church account that Monday, under the name Calloway Family, because my mother asked me to. The following Sunday, Pastor Mike Brennan thanked the Calloway family from the pulpit. My mother stood. My father nodded along from the pew. I sat in the third row and said nothing. And then there was the land. My grandmother, my mother's mother, owned a small parcel behind my parents' house, 4/10 of an acre on Maple Street. Before she passed 5 years ago, she told me and Aunt Ruth both, "This land is for Morgan. She'll need it." But Grandma never wrote a will, and after she died, the deed sat in legal limbo. My parents held the property. Every time I asked about transferring it, my mother had the same answer. "Not now, Morgan. You're being selfish." The letter came on a Wednesday. My friend Jess still lived at my old apartment, the one I had before Ryan and I got our place. A piece of mail showed up with my name on it, forwarded from the bank. Jess called me at the clinic between patients. "Morg, you got something from First National. Looks official." I picked it up after my shift, sat in my car in Jess's driveway and tore it open. Account closure notice. Savings account ending in 4471. Final balance, $0.00. I stared at it so long the streetlight came on. That account was opened when I was 6. My father set it up. A joint account, his name and mine. Every birthday check from Grandma went in there. Every dollar I earned bagging groceries in high school. Every bit of graduation money. By the time I turned 18, there was just over $14,000 in that account. I never touched it. I thought of it as a safety net, something solid underneath everything else. I called the bank the next morning. The customer service agent pulled up the records and confirmed it in a flat, professional tone. The account was closed 7 months ago. A withdrawal of $14,216 was made by the joint account holder. 7 months ago. I did the math twice. 7 months ago was exactly 1 month before Vivian and Derek closed on their new house. I sat in my car in the clinic parking lot, engine off, hands on the wheel. $14,000. 18 years of birthday cards and summer jobs. Gone in a single withdrawal I never authorized. And technically didn't need to, because my father's name was on the account. He didn't steal it, not legally, but he took it. I called my mother that evening. I kept my voice steady, the way I do with difficult patients at the clinic. Calm. Clinical. "Mom, my savings account. The one Dad opened when I was 6. Someone withdrew $14,000. A pause. 1 second. 2. "What account? That thing closed years ago, Morgan." "I have the letter. It closed 7 months ago. The full amount was withdrawn." Another pause. Then her voice shifted. Not defensive, offensive. "You're calling to interrogate your own parents? After everything we've done for you? Your father and I raised you, fed you, kept a roof over your head for 18 years. A few $1,000s and you act like we robbed a bank." "It was 14,000, Mom. And how much did it cost to raise you? Do you want me to pull out receipts?" I closed my eyes. I could hear the TV in the background on her end. A game show. Audience clapping. The money went to Vivian's down payment, didn't it? "I don't know what you're talking about. Vivian and Derek saved for that house themselves. Your father and I helped from our own savings, which is none of your business." She hung up. I sat on the edge of my bed. Ryan was in the doorway, arms crossed. He'd heard every word. I hadn't put her on speaker. She was just that loud. "Morgan," he said. I looked up. "Enough." 2 words. That's all he said. And the way he said them, not angry, not pleading, just certain. Something in my chest cracked open. Because he was right. I wasn't choosing between my family and myself anymore. I was choosing for the baby I just found out I was carrying. 10 weeks along. I hadn't told anyone yet. That night, after Ryan fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with a notebook and a calculator. I wrote it down. All of it. $800 a month for 36 months. $28,800 total, wired to my parents' account on the 1st of every month while they told the family it was disability. $14,216 taken from my childhood savings. Rerouted to my sister's down payment while they told me the account was closed years ago. $5,000 donated to the church, under the Calloway name, while my mother took a bow in front of the congregation. Co-signed car loan, still active, still tethered to my credit like an anchor. Grandma's land. Promised to me. Held by them. Used as a leash every time I asked. Total surrendered. North of $48,000. And in return? My father wished I'd never been born. He just hadn't said it out loud yet. I didn't write revenge in that notebook. I wrote exit plan. Step 1. Call the credit union about removing my name from the car loan. The officer said it could be done. Either Dad refinanced a loan, or I paid off the remaining balance and closed it out. Remaining balance, $3,200. Step 2. Stop the automatic transfer. Cancel the $800. Step 3. Aunt Ruth. The one person in this family whose word no one questions. I hadn't talked to Aunt Ruth about any of this. Not the money, not the savings, not the church donation. She didn't know, but she was about to. And step 4. I didn't plan this one. My mother planned it for me. 3 days later, she texted the family group chat. Cookout Saturday at our place. Celebrating Vivian's new house. Then a separate text, just to me. Morgan, come early. Bring potato salad. Help me set up. Vivian's busy with the house. I read the text twice. Vivian gets the party. I get the potato salad and the setup crew. I typed back. I'll be there. I have some news to share with the family too. My mother's reply came fast. What news? I'd rather say it in person. A pause. Then, fine, but after Vivian's toast. Saturday is her day. Her day. It was always her day. I set the phone down and looked at Ryan across the living room. He was rewiring a light fixture he'd picked up at the salvage yard. Something for the nursery we couldn't afford to build yet. You sure you want to do this there? He asked without looking up. I want witnesses. He nodded once, went back to stripping wire. That week moved like cold honey. I worked my shifts at the clinic. I smiled at patients. I took blood pressure readings and reviewed lab results and acted like my whole life wasn't about to pivot. But at night, I prepared. I pulled up the email confirmation from when I'd transferred $5,000 to the church. The bank's automated receipt sent to my inbox. Sender, First National Bank. Recipient, Elm Street Community Church. Donor, Morgan Grant. I screenshotted it and saved it to a folder on my phone labeled Receipts. I printed the account closure letter, the one showing $14,000 withdrawn by joint account holder. I slid it into a plain white envelope and tucked it into my purse. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened my laptop and searched for the church's public donor acknowledgement page. There it was. Calloway family, $5,000, roof restoration fund. My name wasn't anywhere on it. Not yet. Thursday afternoon, 2 days before the cookout, I stopped by my parents' house to drop off my father's blood pressure medication. I'm still his daughter. I still filled his prescriptions at the clinic pharmacy. Vivian's SUV was in the driveway. She was at the kitchen counter with my mother, flipping through a home decor catalog. Her ring caught the light every time she turned a page. She looked up when I walked in. Morgan, perfect timing. Come look at these curtains. I set the pill bottle on the counter. Nice house, Viv. You and Derek must have saved hard. Vivian beamed. Honestly, the down payment was the hardest part. $15,000 total. Mom and Dad helped with 14 of it. We only had to cover the last 1,000 ourselves. She said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Mom and Dad had 14,000? I kept my voice level. Where'd they get that? Vivian shrugged. Dad said it was from his disability savings. He's been putting money aside since the settlement. Disability savings. The settlement that didn't exist. Funded by money that was mine. My mother was watching me from the stove. Her eyes were careful, measuring. I smiled. That was generous of them. Right? Vivian turned another page. Oh, Mom said Pastor Mike is coming to the cookout Saturday. She wants him to bless the new house. I almost laughed. Pastor Mike, the one person outside this kitchen who knew exactly where that church donation came from, and my mother had invited him herself. That's a nice touch, I said. I'm sure the pastor will have some interesting things to say. My mother's spatula stopped moving, just for a second. Then she went back to stirring. I picked up my purse and left. Friday morning, one day before the cookout. I walked into the credit union on Main Street at 9 sharp. The loan officer, A woman named Pam with reading glasses on a beaded chain pulled up the account. The vehicle loan under Earl Calloway. You're listed as co-signer. She scrolled through the file. Remaining balance is $3,214. I want to pay it off, today, and remove my name from the loan entirely. Pam looked at me over her glasses. You understand that once paid in full, the lien is released. The vehicle title goes solely to the primary borrower. I understand. And you're sure? I'm sure. Ryan and I had talked about it the night before. $3,000 was the money we'd been putting aside for a crib and changing table and all the things you need when you're about to become parents. We'd figure that part out later. Second-hand, borrowed. It didn't matter. Pay it, Ryan had said. Same way he said everything important. Quiet and final. Buy your freedom. I wrote the check. Pam processed it. She printed a release form and I signed it. Clean signature, steady hand. You're all set, Mrs. Grant. Mr. Calloway will receive notification by mail within 5 to 7 business days. After the cookout. Perfect. I stood to leave, and Pam said something that stopped me at the door. You know, you're the second Calloway in here this month. I turned. What do you mean? She caught herself, shook her head. I'm sorry. I can't discuss other clients' business. I nodded, walked out into the parking lot, sat in my car. The second Calloway this month. My father had been here, recently. For what? I didn't know yet. But I filed it away, right next to the envelope in my purse. Friday evening, I sat on the back porch with my phone and a glass of water. Ryan was inside making dinner. His turn, and he wouldn't let me argue. I dialed Aunt Ruth. She picked up on the second ring. Morgan, it's been too long, sweetheart. Aunt Ruth, I need to tell you something. It's not small. Silence on her end. Then, go ahead. I told her everything. Not fast, not emotional, just the facts laid out in order the way a nurse charts a patient history. The $800 a month for 3 years, the disability lie, the savings account, $14,000, the church roof donation, and my mother taking credit, the co-signed car loan my father held over my head. I could hear Aunt Ruth breathing, steady, like she was measuring each word I said against something she already suspected. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Your mother told me your father got a disability settlement. He never filed for disability, Aunt Ruth. He never filed for anything. And the $14,000, that was the account your grandmother started. Yes, ma'am. Another silence. I heard a chair creak, like she was sitting down heavily. What do you want me to do, Morgan? Nothing. I don't want you to do anything. I just need one person in this family to know the truth, in case it matters tomorrow. Tomorrow? The cookout. A pause. When Aunt Ruth spoke again, her voice had changed. Not louder, harder. I'll be at that cookout, Morgan, and I'll be listening. She didn't promise to speak up. She didn't promise to take sides. She just said she'd be there and she'd listen. But anyone who knows Aunt Ruth, retired teacher, 32 years in a classroom, raised 4 kids alone after Uncle Bill passed, knows that when she listens, what comes next shakes the room. Later that night, I opened my laptop and composed an email to Pastor Mike Brennan. I'd known Pastor Mike since I was 12. He baptized me. He married Ryan and me. He was a good man, careful with people's privacy, honest when it counted. I wrote, Pastor Mike, I want to thank you for keeping my donation private all this time, but I'd like to update the church records to reflect the actual donor, Morgan Grant, not the Calloway family. I'll explain when the time is right. Thank you for everything. His reply came within the hour, faster than I expected from a man who still printed his sermons on paper. Morgan, I've always known. The bank transfer had your name. I respected your wishes. I'll update our records this week, and Linda invited me to the cookout Saturday. I'll see you there. Then a second email, 3 minutes later. One more thing. Linda asked me to publicly thank the Calloway family again at the cookout for the church roof donation. I assume you'd like me to handle that differently now? I typed 2 sentences back. Just tell the truth, Pastor. That's all I've ever wanted. I closed the laptop, walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and looked in the mirror. Then I picked up my phone and opened the banking app. The automatic transfer. $800, first of every month, to Earl and Linda Calloway's joint checking, was set to go in 6 days. I pressed cancel. 3 years, 36 payments, $28,800. Done. I didn't cancel out of anger. I canceled because I couldn't keep funding people who would call my child a burden. That's not revenge. That's math. And tomorrow was Saturday. Saturday morning, cookout day. I woke at 6. Ryan was already up. Coffee made, work boots by the door even though he wasn't working today. Old habit. I stood in the kitchen and made the potato salad. Because I'd promised. And because Morgan Calloway, Morgan Grant, keeps her word. Even when nobody else does. Ryan leaned against the counter, watching me dice eggs. We're still going? We're still going, last time. He nodded. Didn't ask what that meant. He already knew. I got dressed. A simple sundress, blue with white flowers, flat sandals, no jewelry except my wedding ring. I didn't do my makeup any differently than a regular Saturday. This wasn't a performance. This was an ending. I slid my phone into my purse, the one with the screenshots saved in a folder labeled Receipts. I tucked the white envelope next to it. The bank's account closure notice, $14,000. Earl Calloway, joint holder. Ryan drove. Neither of us turned on the radio. The road between our apartment and my parents' house is 11 minutes of county highway lined with cornfields and telephone poles. I watched them pass. My hand rested on my stomach. We pulled up at 11:45. A few cars already in the driveway. Uncle Frank's pickup. Aunt Ruth's sedan. She was already here. Good. My mother appeared at the front door before I'd closed the car door. You're late. The tables aren't set up. The cooler needs ice. Come inside. No hello. No how are you, Morgan? Not even a glance at Ryan. I carried the potato salad through the front door and into the kitchen. And there, taped to the refrigerator, was a blown-up photo of Vivian and Derek standing in front of their new house. Gold glitter letters above it. Congratulations. Next to it, nothing. No photo of me, not from nursing school, not from my wedding, not from anything. I set the bowl down and went to work. Okay, hold on. Before I keep going, I want to step outside the story for a second. I know what some of you might be thinking. Why didn't I just stop sending money years ago? And honestly, the car loan, the land, the $800 a month I couldn't just cut off without my dad's credit dragging mine down with it. Sometimes it's not about wanting to stay. It's about untangling yourself first. So here's my question for you. What would you have done when Vivian casually told you the $14,000 down payment came from Dad's disability savings? Knowing the truth? Tell me in the comments. All right, back to the cookout. By 1 o'clock, the backyard was full. 35 people, maybe more. Aunts and uncles I saw twice a year, cousins with kids running through the sprinkler, Mrs. Dalton from 2 doors down carrying her famous cherry pie, the Henderson couple from church. Pastor Mike hadn't arrived yet. My mother had outdone herself. Streamers, balloons, a banner strung between 2 oak trees. Congratulations, Vivian and Derek, new homeowners. There was a folding table lined with casseroles and a cooler full of beer and soda. The grill was going, my father manning it with tongs in one hand, Bud Light in the other. He looked almost happy. I hadn't seen that in 3 years. At 1:30, my mother clinked a fork against her glass and called everyone to attention. My father set down his tongs and stood at the head of the long table. He was wearing his good flannel, the one he saved for church. Today we're here because my daughter Vivian did something her mother and I are real proud of. He raised his can. She bought a home. First one in this family since we got this place 30 years ago. We raised her right, and she made something of herself. He looked at Derek. And this guy right here, heck of a son-in-law. Everyone clapped. Vivian stood, waved like a homecoming queen. Derek shook my father's hand. My mother added, the Calloway family also donated to the church roof fund this year. It's been a blessed season for us. More clapping, a few amens from the church crowd. I stood near the cooler, holding a plastic cup of lemonade. Ryan was beside me, hands in his pockets. Uncle Frank wandered over. He's my father's younger brother. Quieter, sharper. How you doing, Morgan? Your folks sure do talk about Vivian a lot. I smiled. I'm good, Uncle Frank. He studied my face for a second. then nodded and walked back to the table. Not everyone was blind. The toast wound down. People went back to eating. Laughter floated across the yard. Kids chased each other around the oak trees. My mother refilled the chip bowls with the focus of a general running a campaign. I waited. Ryan caught my eye from across the table and gave me one small nod. I set down my cup. I stood up. I have something to share too, if that's okay. The yard didn't exactly go quiet, but enough people turned. My mother looked up from the chip bowl, mouth pressed thin. Ryan and I are expecting a baby. I'm 10 weeks along. For about 2 seconds, it was fine. A cousin clapped. Mrs. Henderson said, "Oh, how wonderful." Uncle Frank smiled. Then my mother spoke. "Great. Another burden." She didn't whisper it. She said it at conversation volume, standing right there at the table. "Your sister is buying a house. That's what we're celebrating this month." My father was still at the grill. He didn't even turn around. He just nodded and said, loud enough for the nearest 15 people to hear clearly, "We wish you were never born, and now there'll be 2 of you." The yard went dead silent. I heard the grill sizzle, a kid's sprinkler hissing 20 feet away, a bird somewhere in the oak tree. Aunt Ruth set her glass down on the table, slowly, like she was placing a period at the end of a sentence. Uncle Frank's mouth was open. Mrs. Dalton put her hand over her own. Ryan's knuckles were white on the back of his chair, but he didn't move. He was watching me. I smiled. I nodded. I walked to the cooler, took out a bottle of water, twisted the cap off, and took a long sip, because Pastor Mike's car had just pulled into the driveway. Aunt Ruth stood up. She didn't rush. She didn't raise her voice. She pushed her chair back, smoothed her blouse, and faced my parents the way she probably faced 30 years' worth of misbehaving 10th graders, with patience that made you more nervous than shouting ever could. "Earl, Linda." Her voice carried across the yard without effort. "I heard what you just said to your daughter, in front of 35 people. Before anyone sits down for seconds, I have a question." My father set his tongs on the grill's side shelf. "Ruth, this is between me and my family." "I am your family," she said. "So here's my question. The disability settlement Linda told me about last year. Earl, when exactly did you file for disability?" He didn't answer. His mouth opened, then closed. My mother stepped forward, voice pitching high. "Ruth, it's not related. We're having a party." "It is related." Aunt Ruth didn't blink. "Because if there's no disability settlement, then who's been paying your electric bill for 3 years? The silence that followed was a different kind than before. Before, it was shock. This was the sound of 35 people doing math in their heads. Vivian looked at my father, then at my mother. Her smile from the toast was gone. Derek stood very still beside Vivian, arms at his sides. Uncle Frank nodded slowly, like a man watching the last piece of a puzzle slide into place. Mrs. Dalton leaned to her husband and whispered something. He shook his head. Aunt Ruth sat down. She picked up her glass of sweet tea and took a sip. She was done, for now. She'd thrown one grenade and sat back down. That was her style. Plant the question, let the silence do the work. And walking through the side gate with a Bible under his arm was Pastor Mike Brennan. My mother's eyes went red on command. I'd seen it 100 times, at funerals, at church, at Thanksgiving when she wanted someone to clear the dishes. "Ruth, you don't understand." Her voice trembled, pitch perfect. "Earl lost his job. I've been holding this family together by myself. Nobody knows what I've been through." My father found his footing. "Kids owe their parents. That's how it works. We raised them. We fed them. We kept a roof." "Earl." Uncle Frank's voice cut across the yard like a saw blade. He was standing now, plate still in hand. "I just heard you say you wish your daughter was never born, in front of everyone here. Don't you dare talk about what kids owe." My father's mouth snapped shut. Linda pivoted. She grabbed Vivian's arm. "Vivian, tell your aunt, tell everyone. This is a beautiful day. We don't need to ruin it with drama." Vivian pulled her arm free. Gently, but she pulled it free. "Mom, what's Aunt Ruth talking about? What disability settlement?" "It's nothing. It's a misunderstanding." Vivian stared at her. "Is it?" The neighbors were starting to shift. That particular small-town body language where people reach for their keys without being obvious about it. Mrs. Dalton's husband was already folding his lawn chair. Then Derek, Vivian's husband, did something I didn't expect. He walked away from the table, crossed the yard, and stopped in front of me. He leaned in close. His voice was low, just for me. "Morgan, I didn't know about the 14,000. Vivian told me it was your parents' savings, from years of work." I looked at him. "I know. I'm sorry." I nodded. That was enough. He walked back to Vivian. The crack in their side of the family had just started. And it wasn't me who made it. Pastor Mike walked into the yard carrying a foil-covered plate and that calm Sunday sermon expression he always wore. He shook a few hands, smiled at the kids, made his way to my mother. "Linda, thank you for the invitation. Beautiful spread." My mother latched onto him like a life raft. "Pastor, come in, come in. We were hoping you could do a blessing for Vivian's new home." "I'd be happy to." He set his plate on the table. "But first, Linda, you mentioned wanting me to thank the family publicly for the church roof donation. I want to do that properly." My mother's posture lifted. She smoothed her hair, ready for her bow. Pastor Mike turned to the yard. 30-something people, half of them still processing what Aunt Ruth had just dropped. "Folks, quick word. As many of you know, our church roof needed major repair last year. $5,000. One donor covered the entire cost." He paused. Then he looked directly at me. "Morgan, thank you. Your generosity kept our sanctuary from leaking all winter." My mother's face didn't change right away. It was like watching a screen freeze. Everything still there, but nothing moving behind it. Then it hit her. "Well, Morgan is my daughter," she said, laughing in that bright way she uses at church functions. "So it's still the Calloway family, really." Mrs. Dalton spoke from her folding chair. "Linda, last month at Quilting Circle, you said the donation was from you and Earl." That's what I meant. Morgan is part of—" "You stood up in church," Aunt Ruth said, not loud, not soft. "You stood up and took the bow. You didn't mention Morgan's name once." My mother looked at me. I was standing by the cooler, water bottle in hand. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. My father tried to regain ground. He stepped away from the grill, jaw set. "One church donation. Fine. She wants credit, she can have it. But that doesn't change the fact that we raised her. 18 years. I set my water bottle down. "You're right, Dad. You raised me for 18 years. My voice was even. No shake, no edge. "And I've been paying you back for the last 3. He stared at me. $800 a month, I said, wired to your checking account on the 1st of every month, for 36 months. That's $28,800. The yard didn't make a sound. Even the kids had stopped running. "There is no disability settlement, Aunt Ruth." I looked at her. "That money was from me. My bank statements show every transfer, dated and documented." My mother's hand went to her throat. "Morgan, what are you doing? Are you trying to destroy this family?" "I'm not destroying anything, Mom. I'm just done building it for you." Uncle Frank turned to my father. His voice was loud enough that the Hendersons at the far table heard every word. $30,000, Earl, and you told her you wish she was never born." Vivian grabbed Derek's arm. "Dad, $800 a month? You told me that was disability money." My father didn't answer. He picked up his beer, stared at it, and set it back down. The grill popped behind him. Smoke curled into the afternoon air. Somewhere on the street, a lawnmower started up. The rest of the world carrying on like nothing was happening. But in that backyard, the Calloway family portrait my mother had been painting for 40 years was dissolving in real time. And I still had the envelope in my purse. I reached into my purse. No dramatic pause, no speech. I pulled out the white envelope and set it on the table in front of Vivian. "One more thing." Vivian looked at the envelope like it might bite her. "When I was 6 years old, Dad opened a savings account in both our names. Grandma put money in it every birthday. I added to it through high school. By the time I turned 18, there was over $14,000. I looked at my father. 7 months ago, you withdrew every cent. Vivian opened the envelope. She read the bank notice. I watched her lips move as she scanned the final balance line. $0.00. Her face went white. Derek stood up from the table. He looked at my father the way you look at someone who's been lying to you for months. You told us that was your savings, Earl, from years of hard work. My father's chin came up. That account had my name on it. That money was mine. That money was from our mother. Aunt Ruth's voice was iron. From your mother-in-law. For Morgan. I was there when she gave it, Earl. Every single birthday. My mother started crying. Not the controlled kind from earlier. The real kind. The kind that comes when the audience you've been performing for finally sees behind the curtain. Half the guests were on their feet now. The Hendersons had already left. Mrs. Dalton was folding her chair but not leaving. She wanted to see how this ended. Uncle Frank stood with his arms crossed, shaking his head. Vivian set the letter down. Her hand was trembling. "Mom," she said, "is this true?" My mother didn't answer. She just cried harder. That was all the answer anyone needed. I didn't sit down. I didn't need to. This was going to be short. "Dad? Mom?" I looked at them both. My voice was the same one I use when I tell a patient that the test results came back and we need to talk. Calm, clear, no room for bargaining. "I canceled the $800 transfer last week. It's done. And I paid off the car loan yesterday. My name is off it. From next month, those payments are yours." My father's face went from red to pale in about 2 seconds. "You can't just—" "I can, because it was my money and my name." My mother tried one more play, the big one. "Morgan, if you walk away from this family now, don't ever come back." I let that sentence land. Let it sit there in front of 30 people like a grenade with the pin pulled. Then I said, "You told me you wish I was never born, so I'm going to live like I don't exist to you. No $800, no co-signed loans, no potato salad." Somebody, I think it was Mrs. Dalton, let out a small sound, almost like a laugh she caught in her hand. Ryan stepped up beside me. He didn't say anything. He just put his hand on my back. Steady. Warm. I looked at the yard. The deflating balloons. The congratulations banner starting to sag on one end. Uncle Frank, Aunt Ruth, the cousins who'd been watching this whole thing unfold like a play none of them bought tickets for. "I'm sorry this happened at a party," I said. "Ryan and I are going to head home." We walked through the side gate. I didn't slam it. I didn't turn around. Ryan opened the car door for me. I sat down, buckled my seatbelt, and put my hands on my stomach. We drove home in silence. But it was a different silence than the drive there. This one was clean. Pause. "I want to be real with you for a second." Walking away from that cookout was not some triumphant movie moment. My hands were shaking. I was 10 weeks pregnant and my father had just told 35 people he wished I'd never been born. But I kept thinking about my baby, and what kind of mother I'd be if I sat back down and ate potato salad after that. So tell me honestly, do you think I pulled the trigger on everything too hard, too fast? The money, the cosign, the church truth, all at once? Or should I have done it sooner? Let me know in the comments. Okay, here's what happened the week after. Monday morning, my father opened his mailbox and found the letter from the credit union. Loan paid in full. Cosigner removed. Vehicle title transferred to sole borrower, Earl Calloway. Which sounds fine, except now Earl was the only name on a loan history tied to a credit score that couldn't support a library card, let alone a truck payment. The credit union sent a follow-up notice. Based on his current financial profile, they recommended he secure a new cosigner or risk reclassification on future credit applications. Nobody in the family was lining up. Tuesday, my mother checked the bank account. No $800 deposit. She checked again Wednesday. Nothing. She called me. I let it ring. She called Ryan. He answered, because Ryan always answers, even when he doesn't want to. "Linda, Morgan said what she needed to say Saturday. We're not available." He hung up. Not rude, just done. Thursday, my mother called Aunt Ruth. I know this because Aunt Ruth told me later. She gave me the conversation almost word for word. "Ruth, Morgan is tearing this family apart. She humiliated us at the cookout. She's punishing us for nothing. Aunt Ruth's reply. Linda, you told your daughter you wished she was never born, in front of 35 people. Don't call me about betrayal. My mother hung up on her own sister, but the call I didn't expect came Thursday evening. Vivian. Her voice sounded different. Not the golden child lilt, something thinner, more careful. Morgan, Derek says if the down payment came from your account, he wants to pay it back. He won't start our life in a house bought with stolen money. I leaned against the kitchen counter. Vivian, that's between you and Derek. It's between all of us. And I'm sorry. It was the first time she'd ever said that to me. Derek and I met at the diner on 5th Street the following Saturday. Neutral ground. Just the two of us in a corner booth, coffee between us. He looked tired. Not angry. Tired the way people look when they've spent a week realizing the foundation under their house was built on sand. I want you to hear me say this, he started. I didn't know. Vivian told me it was their savings. Years of setting aside money from your dad's settlement. I never questioned it. I believe you, Derek. Vivian and I will pay you back. $500 a month. It'll take time, but we'll cover the 14. You don't have to. Yeah, I do. He wrapped his hands around the coffee cup. I'm not going to raise my kids in a house paid for with money taken from their aunt. That's not who I want to be. I respected that, so I nodded. Then he told me something that changed the shape of the story. Vivian's not sleeping. She told me something 2 nights ago that she's been carrying for a while. He paused. Your mom told the extended family, the cousins, the aunts on the other side, that you'd been struggling with depression, that you were making things up, exaggerating. I set down my coffee. She told them this so that if you ever said anything about the money, nobody would believe you. I let that settle. My own mother had been building a wall around me, brick by brick, lie by lie, so that when the truth finally came out, I'd look like the crazy one. How long? I asked. Vivian says at least a year. A year. While I was writing checks and filling prescriptions and making potato salad, my mother was poisoning the well. The diner felt very quiet. Thank you for telling me, Derek. He nodded. We shook hands. No hug. Just 2 people trying to be decent in the middle of a mess. The call came the following Tuesday. Not from family. From Pam at the credit union, the same loan officer who'd processed my payoff. Mrs. Grant, I hope this isn't overstep, but after you came in last week, I flagged something in our system during a routine review. Her voice was careful, the way people sound when they're balancing procedure against conscience. Your father visited our branch 3 weeks ago to inquire about a home equity line of credit. He doesn't own a home outright. The mortgage is still not on the house, on a parcel of land, 4/10 of an acre on Maple Street. My grandmother's land. I gripped the phone tighter. He can't do that. The deed isn't in his name. You're correct, which is why the application didn't proceed. The property is still in probate, but I thought you should know the inquiry was made. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat very still in my car outside the clinic and let it sink in. My father hadn't just taken my past, the savings account, the years of monthly checks, the church donation, the credit score leverage. He'd been trying to take my future too. Grandma's land, the only thing she'd ever meant to leave me, and he'd walked into the credit union to see if he could borrow against it. If I hadn't gone to that credit union to pay off the car loan, Pam would never have flagged Earl's inquiry. I would never have known. That evening, I called Aunt Ruth again. He tried to take the land, I said. A long breath, then, call a lawyer, Morgan. I'll be your witness. Your grandmother wanted that land for you. I'll say it under oath if I have to. I called a real estate attorney the next morning. He wasn't just stealing my past, he was trying to mortgage my future. Small towns don't need newspapers. They have Mrs. Dalton. By the following Sunday, the story had moved through every circle in town. Quilting group, church coffee hour, the checkout line at Harrison's Market. Not because anyone was cruel about it, because 35 people saw what happened at that cookout, and 35 people have families of their own. My mother showed up at church the next week. She walked to her usual pew, 3rd row, left side, the one she'd sat in for 20 years. It was occupied. 2 women from the choir had gotten there early. Nobody said, "You cannot sit here." They didn't have to. The message was in the silence. The thank you plaque in the church lobby had been updated. Where it once read, Calloway Family, $5,000, Roof Restoration Fund, it now said, Morgan Grant. My mother saw it. She took my father by the elbow and they left before the first hymn. At the post office, Mr. Henderson, who'd been at the cookout and left early, ran into my father. His version of small talk landed like a brick. "Heard your youngest was the one covering the bills, Earl. Everything all right at home?" My father said nothing, walked to his truck, drove away. At Harrison's Market, Linda stopped going to her usual Thursday shift as a volunteer shelf stalker. Too many familiar faces, too many careful silences. Nobody organized a boycott. Nobody wrote letters. This wasn't that kind of cruelty. It was the slow, steady withdrawal of respect, the one currency my mother valued above everything else. My father started spending more time in the garage, door closed. My mother stopped answering the phone on the first ring. Their world didn't collapse overnight, it just got smaller. One averted gaze at a time. 2 weeks after the cookout, Vivian texted me. "Can we talk? Just the two of us, no parents." We met at the park on Cedar Street, the one with the old swing set where we used to play when we were kids, before the favoritism calcified into something permanent. Vivian sat on a bench, no sunglasses to hide behind. No Derek. She looked smaller without the golden child glow. "You have every right to hate me," she said. "I don't hate you, Vivian." "Then what?" I thought about it. "I'm tired. There's a difference." She nodded. "I didn't know about the savings account. I swear I didn't. Derek told me what he found out and I didn't sleep for 3 days. She looked at her hands. "I keep thinking, 18 years you saved that money, and Dad just took it." He did. "I want to tell you something." Her voice dropped. "Mom told the cousins you were depressed, that you made things up, that you exaggerated. Derek told me. She did it so nobody would believe you if you ever spoke up." Vivian's chin trembled. "She planned it, Morgan. Our mother planned it." I let the silence sit. A kid ran past us chasing a dog. Normal life, 10 feet away. "We can rebuild, Vivian. You and me, but slowly. And not through them." She wiped her eyes. "Okay. 500 a month. Derek already told me. We'll pay back every cent." I didn't argue. It was my money. Always had been. We sat there for a while. Didn't hug. Didn't cry together. Just 2 sisters on a park bench, 33 and 29, looking at the swing set where things used to be simple. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a door left open. On my terms. The article ran in the County Weekly the same week the leaves started turning. Local electrician Ryan Grant lands contract for new community center. Half a page, with a photo of Ryan shaking hands with the town supervisor. The biggest construction project the township had funded in a decade, and my husband, the man my father called Wire Boy, was the lead contractor. I bought 5 copies, not to gloat, because I wanted our child to see it someday. My father read the paper. "I know because Uncle Frank told me," said Earl was sitting on his porch with the paper open to that page, staring at it like he was trying to solve an equation that wouldn't balance. Wire Boy, building the town's community center. While Earl couldn't find a cosigner for his truck. Meanwhile, the attorney Ryan and I hired filed the paperwork to claim Grandma's land through probate court. Aunt Ruth signed an affidavit, a written statement under oath, that our grandmother intended the Maple Street parcel for me. The attorney said it could take 6 to 8 months, maybe longer, but it was moving. I went to my 12-week prenatal checkup. The baby was healthy, strong heartbeat. The ultrasound tech printed me a picture, and I held it in the car for 10 minutes before driving home. The doctor's intake form asked, "Family support system?" I wrote, "Husband, aunt." That was enough. Ryan and I set up the nursery in the 2nd bedroom of our apartment. It was small, barely fit the crib and a dresser. The crib was second-hand from a coworker whose kids had outgrown it. The walls were pale yellow. Ryan installed the overhead light himself. It wasn't the house on Grandma's land. Not yet. But it was ours. Every square inch, paid for with money nobody lied about. My baby would grow up in a small apartment, but it would be a home where nobody wishes they were never born. A month after the cookout, my mother sent a text. "Morgan, I know I said things I shouldn't have, but I'm still your mother. You can't just cut us off." I read it 3 times. Then I typed back, slowly, deliberately, the way I chart notes at the clinic. "Mom, I'm not cutting you off, I'm protecting my child. When you and Dad are ready to sit down with a family therapist, I'm willing to talk, but I'm not going back to writing checks and pretending everything is fine." She didn't reply. 3 days later, Ryan's phone rang during dinner. He looked at the screen, then at me. "It's your dad," he answered. I could hear my father's voice through the speaker. Gruff, clipped, the way he talks when he's trying to sound unbothered. "Tell Morgan to call me." Ryan kept his voice level. "Earl, she knows how to reach you. She set a condition. It's up to you now." A pause. Then the line went dead. My father didn't call again. My mother didn't text again. Not that week, not the week after. I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt. It did. Some nights I'd lie in bed with my hand on my stomach and think about my mother's voice at the cookout. Another burden. And wonder if there was a version of this where she was different. Where my father was different. Where the savings account stayed intact, and the land was in my name, and nobody had to stand up at a family barbecue and read receipts in front of 35 people. But there wasn't. This was the version I got. I didn't close the door. I put a lock on it. The key was simple. "I'm sorry," and a chair in a therapist's office. They knew where to find both. I'm sitting on our apartment porch as I tell you this. It's early evening, the lights going gold the way it does in October in Ohio. Ryan's inside. I can hear him fitting baseboards in the nursery, tapping them into place with a rubber mallet. I don't tell this story so you'll hate my parents. They're real people. My father lost his job at 58 and never recovered. Not financially, not in his pride, not in the way he sees himself. My mother is terrified of what people think, and she built a whole identity around being the woman whose family had it together. When reality didn't match, she rewrote it, and rewrote me out of the picture. That doesn't make it okay. It makes it human, and it makes it something I had to walk away from. Here's what I learned. And I'm not saying this to preach. I'm saying it because I wish someone had told me 3 years ago before the first wire transfer. Love is not a reason to let someone take everything from you. And silence is not strength. Sometimes silence is just the sound of making yourself smaller so someone else can be comfortable. My baby's going to be born in February. A girl, if the ultrasound is right. She'll grow up in a small apartment with second-hand furniture and a father who comes home with drywall dust in his hair. She won't have a trust fund, she won't have a big family behind her, and not yet. But she'll have something I didn't. She'll have a mother who knows what she's worth, who doesn't apologize for existing. Who set a boundary and held it, not with anger, but with math and truth and a white envelope on a folding table. That's my story, for now. Ryan just opened the door. He's holding a glass of water and giving me that look. The one that says, "Come inside, it's getting cold." So I'll go. Take care of yourselves. Thank you for staying until the end. That means a lot, truly. If this story hit close to home, whether you've been the one writing the checks, or you've been the invisible one at the table, or you're still trying to figure out how to set that boundary, leave me a comment. Tell me, have you ever been the person keeping things running while someone else got the applause? I read every single one. If you haven't already, hit like and subscribe. And if you want another story like this one, I've linked it right in the description. It's a good one. I'll see you there. Take care.